Now, if we like our tents and outdoor life, many of us have considered a trekking pole tent or using a tarp in its various configurations. But can it do this? Or this? Or this? Or this? So in this video, I'm going to take you through some of the features, options, and what it's like to spend the night in the Nortent Bivouack. I'm going to start with the components and setup. I wanted to start off with first pitch of the Nortent Bivouack, and I'll just show you what comes in the package. Whole thing arrives from Nortent like this as a complete package that weighs 1.48 kilos. This is a 30D sil nylon bag, and inside there's a pack of pegs and guys that weighs 370 grams, leaving the 30D siliconized both sides bivouac. I think that they haven't pre-tied the guy lines because this is intended as a modular system where you can put the guys separately, however the configuration you would like. There are 15 pegs rather generously, and inside there's a little repair patch, and these are the straps to pitch it in tent format. So pretty generous all in all. And there was some sill net in there because this does require seam sealing, and I've already done that, but it was a pretty quick job, to be honest. There only being one long center seam and 3 cross seams, pretty easy. You attach these tapes to these clip corners here, and as usual with Nortent, all of the attachment points are reinforced with Dyneema. The material feels great, and this is actually the Bivouakk Artic version. There is an extreme version as well that's a lighter nylon, but it is triple siliconized. That comes at a slightly higher price, but if weight and optimum performance is the thing for you, that's the one to go for. Impressions is this thing is enormous. Not an easy pitch the first time, and it's going to need a lot of tweaking, but I'm going to give you a quick look. So it's very windy conditions, and I've used all the guys, but that's 1, 2, 3, about 4 meters from there to there. I've got my poles set as high as they can go. So it's about 140 high inside. I mean, look, I can kind of like walk around inside. Have a bit of a disco. It's enormous. I haven't got the inner tent yet, but as soon as that arrives, I'll put that up for you. But yeah, really big. Right, first pitch, first impressions. Not easy to get round, but being a modular structure, you've got a lot of options, and yeah, so really different, really interesting this first time. Right, I'm going to whip this down now. It's Christmas Eve actually, and we're going out on a family trip, so cut! Right, skip forward 2 weeks and I've got the Nortent Bivuakk set up in the garden again. Christmas is over, it's just into New Year, and Happy New Year to everybody. And this time there's a difference. I've got it set up with the stove, and I'm going to spend the night in here just to trial out a few different things. So you can see the space in here now. I've actually got on the floor there a 2-man footprint, and there's easily enough space to sleep 3 people in here. So I've got some wood, I've got my little fire maple kettle and a cup of tea, got some Christmas chocolate, and I've got the stove ready to light. So let's get the stove going. Now, while I'm lighting this fire, I wanted to tell you about a couple of other challenges about tonight. I know this is a bit lame, slipping in the garden, but it's quite good fun. But the whole idea is I wanted to see if
I could get close to having a lightweight system to go up into the hills away from sources of wood fuel and go all night. That's drawing lovely, that now, straight away. Now this is my steel stove, and currently the Nortent titanium stoves are out of stock, but when I've got one, that stove only weighs 1.7 kilos. Now my theory is, with this canopy only weighing 1.3 kilos, and that's with pegs and guy lines, I could carry the titanium stove which weighs 1.7 kilos, and I would have a 3 kilo hot tent system for 3 people. Now a lot of two-man tents weigh that much, and then if you carried some of these Lecto night briquettes that weigh just under a kilo each, you could perhaps kind of like go all night with a hot tent. Now admittedly these do need a bed of coals to get warm, but I wanted to see how the temperature goes up in here, and if these night briquettes, if I put 3 or 4 down, if they do actually burn all night. While the fire gets going, I'll set up my bed for the night. And you might have noticed at the end there, I've got the carbon fibre pole now. Now there's a little present. Nortent kindly sent me the extreme version of this with the inner tent and the carbon fibre poles, and this is the Bivouakk Artic. And so keep an eye out for future use of this device, this multi-function bivouac, because I'm going to be trying out the extreme version in the future, the lighter weight one, and really just figuring out best use of this. It's just unique, it's like nothing I've come across before, so keep an eye out. Right, that's me set up now, nice and cozy, and the fire's getting going nicely. Even though I've got the door open, I can feel a little bit of heat spreading back already, and the condensation is very little actually, being such a big space. So if I did get cold in the night, I've got something new to try out. This is the Robens mounting bivy. I did have the Rab storm bivy for cold nights in the winter, but I had problems with condensation inside, so I hope this is a little bit better. And if you're the person that's just bought it on eBay, I apologise. This says not a waterproof bivy, this one. I think it's got a waterproof base but a highly breathable upper, and I would only tend to use it either under a tarp or in a lightweight structure like this. So yeah, should be good. So it only weighs 495 grams, and these have a side zip as well. They're very large, so I may well test this out more in the future, so keep an eye out for the Robens mounting bivy. Right, time to get the kettle on, I think. So just where I'm sitting here in front of the stove, it's gone up to 11.5 degrees from 3, and that's with the door open. Tell me what your favourite tea is. I just love the smoky taste of Lapsang Souchong, and it's highly appropriate on nights like this. Okay, I'm just going to build the fire up a little bit before bed, and it's a very pleasant 19 degrees centigrade in here. So I've got a couple of lovely big bits of beech to put on, so I'll build it up with those. I'm going to read for a bit, and before I go to sleep I'm going to put a couple of the night briquettes on and see how long they last into the night. Cozy in here. Fish. Ooh. Ooh. 10 fish. 10 fish. Ooh. Well, 60 years old, and still camping in the garden. But I wouldn't have it any other way. It's just a little bit of adventure to grab whenever you can. Just takes a little bit of energy and a little bit of commitment. Even just to walk out down your local woods, or for me stepping onto the beaches. Time to see nature and to feel open, and even this just coming out into the garden. I heard an owl there before. I can hear traffic, but you've got to shut those out and visualize being in the wilds, and I think tents are magical that way. And this one's a really different tent. I like it. I'm digging this single skin trekking pole, spacious thing. Okay, I'm going to say good night. I'm going to put those night briquettes on a bit, and I'll see you in the morning. Morning everybody. It's 5:30 in the morning, and I've definitely got a good bed of ash and embers in there. So despite that, I am still a little cold. There's a big temperature gradient between that end and this end in this really large structure, and I've got the door partly open that end for ventilation. So I'm going to break out the Nortent Bivy and try this out. So it feels like a fairly tough coated PU on the bottom, and much more silky on the top. And it's got a zip that reaches a long way down its side, the simple Velcro flap over the top. So let's try this. I'm back to sleep. I could put more wood on the fire, but I think I'll just let that completely die down. A real good advantage of having the fire in here overnight, though, is despite this being a single skin structure, there's absolutely no condensation at all. Okay, a bit more kip. Right, up and about properly now. Yeah, the Nortent Bivy by Robens was good. I'll just show you a little bit better that long zip now, so that'll make it much easier to get in. And for the few hours I slept in it, I had no condensation. Admittedly, it was a dry, slightly warmer environment because of the stove, but I definitely want to try it in more challenging conditions. There's a mesh section there, and a zip inside there, and a flap, and there's a bit here where you can pitch it up, and it doesn't come with any sort of pole, but I wonder if I could put some sort of pole device through there, or even string. So I've changed my sleeping position to the side configuration now, and there's the centre seam line there and the stove at that end. So on reflection, as a solo person with the stove last night, that would have been better, and on this half there would easily be space for 2 people, or have a big work area. And imagine if you use this in summer conditions, or you didn't want the stove, you could remove that, and you could easily sleep 4 people in here. It's not advertised as that, it's advertised as a blank canvas, but definitely you could do that. So feasible and comfortable, and there would still be plenty of space for equipment in your vestibules. I'll just spin you around and show you what this looks like from the other side. Yeah, there's the sleep gear and all that space. Now, some cons and pros with the Nortent Bivuakk. The first thing that has to be put out the way is the price. If you look at valleyandpeak.co.uk, this Arctic version is just under £400. Now, you might think, well, that's just for a tarp, but this is really high quality material, siliconized on both sides, and there's a lot of it, and that definitely bumps the price up. So another con, I'm not sure if this is a con or not, but I would have liked to see this have been more pocket-like here for a bit more security.
but it's an easy fix that. All I have to do there is just put an extra loop and toggle of material around, and they've put a loop round that will take a trekking pole, but last night I was finding if I knock the pole it could slide back and slide down like that. But a solution to that is to put the pole at a little bit of an angle and not vertical, and then it can't slide back. So for this carbon fibre pole that works quite well. So I'm not sure if this is a con or just something I'm not familiar with in use yet, and that's this Velcro door. Now they've done this to make it as minimalist as possible, but just to do that up I found that like a little bit awkward. You've got to kind of develop your technique there, and of course it does leave gaps in between. Now that's good for ventilation, but if you were to have wind and rain catching on that, you would definitely or probably get some blow in, because the flap section isn't very big, so you can't get much overlap at the front. So I'd rather see that this sacrifices a little bit of weight, see this seam and Velcro much wider here, so you could get some overlap on the door. You know, in really windy conditions it might be might even be a closed peg job, but there is 2 pegging loops at the bottom, so you can feasibly overlap it at the bottom a little bit, and the door won't blow apart, but as I said, you could get some wind and rain coming from inside there. So what are the pros of the Nortent Bivuakk? Well, for a start it has to be the amazing space to weight ratio. You can see it inside there. I'll put the dimensions up on the screen now. We know it's 135 high, and I don't know anything else like it that shows such amazing space to weight ratio. And that potential to add a stove in there, albeit an ultralight titanium one, for 3 kilos is just absolutely incredible. So the final pro with the Nortent Bivuakk is its sheer versatility, and I've only started to scratch the surface here, and it's just limited by your own imagination. And I know I can hear you saying, well, that's just an expensive tarp, but when you start to look at the design features, it's so much more than that. The touches and the thought that's gone into making this a really versatile blank canvas that easily lends itself to the different setup is extremely clever. And I'm going to be using this much more over the next year, and I'll put Nortent Bivuakk at the start of it. But if you like this, comment below what you like about it. And the other thing that you could do as well, that's been pointed out by a friend, is it would be excellent to put a hammock in here. You could have the hammock slung through there, and then when it got kind of cold at night, or you wanted to keep the wind out, you could just shut the sides up to make a tent. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Please like this video if you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.